I never expected a routine traffic stop to reveal my daughter-in-law's unimaginable secret. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. My heart raced as the blue lights flashed behind her car. Tears pricked at my eyes and a knot twisted in my stomach. Laura looked so calm, just adjusting her headband as if this was just another errand. But I sensed the storm brewing beneath the surface. It was a chilly autumn afternoon, the kind where the crisp air bites at your cheeks. The leaves danced with a fiery hue around us, yet all I felt was dread. My hands trembled as I watched her pull over. She was more than my son's wife. She was my confidant, my second daughter. We shared laughter over coffee dates and whispered secrets at family dinners. But what was hidden beneath her bright smile? As the officer approached, the sunlight glinted off his badge, casting shadows of uncertainty. My throat constricted. I leaned closer, straining to hear their conversation. The officer's voice was clipped, and Laura's responses came quick, almost too quick for comfort. "Is everything all right?" I wanted to shout, but my voice stuck in my throat like a lump of ice. Suddenly the officer frowned. He stepped back, pulling out a clipboard and began jotting down notes. I could feel the air grow thick with tension. I caught the hint of anxiety in Laura's eyes, the flicker of a secret just beneath the surface. My chest tightened as she glanced at the back seat. What was back there? I began to piece together the things I had overlooked, the murmurs of my son's unease, the late-night phone calls she took in hushed tones, the sudden trip she took without explanation. They all rushed back, crashing into my mind like a tidal wave. Then, without warning, the officer's face transformed. He turned sharply, asking about a name I did not recognize. Laura's face went pale, the shock evident in her wide eyes. The world faded away. I could hardly breathe. A gasp escaped my lips. What had I stumbled upon? I struggled to focus on the scene, as whispers of the onlookers filled the air. "Did you hear?" One woman murmured. "Isn't that the fancy lawyer's wife?" My heart pounded louder, drowning out the noise around me. The officer leaned closer, his voice turning steely. I felt the panic rise within me. My mind raced. What kind of trouble could she be in? My heart was a drum echoing with fear. Then he reached into the car and pulled out a small iridescent object that glimmered in the sunlight. My heart sank deeper. What is happening? What does this mean? In that fragile moment it felt like the air itself held its breath. Everything froze. A cold wave of realization hit me. The silence between us felt endless yet charged with a tension that set my teeth on edge. What secret did my daughter-in-law hold? And how would it shatter everything I thought I knew? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The officer lifted the shimmering object, revealing a small, intricate vial, its contents swirling in iridescent colors. Hope and dread battled inside me, my heart hammering painfully against my ribs. It felt as if the world had fallen away, and all that was left was this moment. Heavy with unspoken truths, Laura's breath hitched, her perfect composure cracking under the weight of the officer's stare. "Two can explain," she stammered, words spilling out like cracks in a dam. But what explanation could possibly justify this? I could see it in her eyes, the fear, the desperation, the helplessness, as if she stood on the precipice of a cliff, ready to plunge into a chasm of consequences. The crowd around us buzzed with confusion and intrigue, their whispers like daggers, piercing through the shroud of our reality. "Is she really who we think she is?" one man murmured. "You think she's connected to?" I couldn't listen anymore. What would they say about her? About our family? I waited breathless, part of me still hoping it was a misunderstanding. "Mom, please," Laura implored, turning her wide, pleading eyes towards me as if I were the last lifeline in a turbulent sea. "I never wanted you to find out this way." "Find out what, Laura?" My voice was steadier than I felt. I was like a tightrope walker caught between worlds, her past and our fragile present. "Am I being arrested?" she asked, a tremor lacing her tone. The officer shot her a sympathetic glance, though his resolve hardened. We need to ask you a few questions first. This vial was flagged during a routine check. Can you tell me what it contains? Panic washed over me as I tried to process her reaction. I wanted to reach out to comfort her, but fear had cemented my feet to the ground. My mind drifted to my son, Nate, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing around him. What would this do to his heart, to his trust in her? I swear it's not what you think. I was trying to help someone. Laura's voice wavered, the words tumbling out desperately. Two didn't mean to. Then the officer's radio crackled a warning that sent chills down my spine. We've got a situation developing on Oak Street. I need backup. He gestured to Laura sharply. But this can't wait. Talk to me. Help someone? I echoed, struggling to grasp the reality. Help who? She cast a quick glance at the sliding door of the officer's vehicle, returning to my gaze. Only now a flicker of anger crossed her features, pushing through her fear. I'm protecting my family, Mom. It's not just about me. Then you should have told me. The words tumbled out before I could catch them. My voice wavered with disbelief, hurt creeping into my tone. You think keeping secrets will protect us? Her eyes pooled with tears, mirroring my own turmoil. You don't understand. I didn't want to drag you into this. You have no idea what I've been dealing with. A small voice in my head urged me to stay calm, to show compassion. But the shocking revelation lingered just beyond my grasp, tantalizingly close yet horrifically elusive. The crowd had grown, a cluster of faceless spectators fed by our anguish, and suddenly I felt so exposed. Why was this public? Why now? I can't believe you'd risk everything even now. I shot back, the defensiveness a shield against my own vulnerability. The officer shifted uncomfortably, caught in the turmoil swirling between us, and for a brief moment, he seemed almost human, a glimmer of understanding in his eyes. Just as I opened my mouth to demand more clarity, the officer's radio crackled again, and this time I froze. Units respond to a vehicle pursuit. Suspect may be armed. I repeat, armed individual on Oak Street. My breath caught as I felt the shadows of danger loom closer. Laura's gaze flickered, a moment of realization crossing her face. We need to leave. Now. They're coming for me, she whispered urgently, her face pale. What do you mean? Suddenly, a cacophony of sirens split the air, jolting me into a whirlwind of panic. Laura's urgency was palpable, and in my heart dread gnawed. The truth was spiraling out of control, wrapping around us tighter with every thud of my pulse. Please, I'll explain everything later. Just trust me. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Could I trust her? Was this secret born from love? Or was it something darker? Before I could process the whirlwind of questions battering my mind, Laura reached for my hand. Don't let them take me. And just as I prepared to grasp her hand, ready to face whatever storm lay ahead with her, the officer turned sharply. In that moment, everything shifted. An agonizing truth was set to unfold, and the entire fabric of our lives began fraying dangerously at the edges. Then, I heard the unmistakable sound of a car engine revving hard behind us, tires screeching on the gravel, a harbinger of chaos. I felt my heart drop. Who was driving? Could they be connected to Laura's unimaginable secret? My mind raced as I took a step back, torn between fear for Laura and concern for my own family. Mom! She reached for me, desperation etched into her features, and for the first time, I felt the distance between us grow, stretching like an insurmountable chasm. Would I let her down, or would I choose to leap? Just then, the car skidded to a halt inches away, and I braced myself for what was about to unfold. Confusion twisted into fear as the door swung open, revealing a face I hadn't seen in years. A chilling recognition gripped my heart, one that threatened to shatter the last remnants of our fragile family. Mom, we need to talk. My long-lost son, Ethan, stepped out with an air of urgency, his eyes scanning the scene as if sensing the storm encapsulating us. What had he returned to? And how much had he known? A series of unthinkable questions buzzed in my mind like 1,000 angry bees. One thing was clear. Everything was about to get much worse. The air grew dense with unresolved tension as time stretched into a surreal fog. My son, Ethan, stood before Maya's presence, an unsettling jolt along the fragile wire of emotions that had just unraveled. Hope collided with despair, and I felt like a ship being tossed about on a stormy sea. torn between the currents of family loyalty and the dread of what truths were about to surface. "What are you doing here?" I breathed, my voice barely above a whisper, as Laura's grip on my hand tightened. The stakes had escalated, and I could see in Ethan's wild eyes a mix of urgency and fear, like a storm of memories crashing around us. "Mom, I heard. I had to come," he replied. His words rushed yet deliberate, as though he were weighing every syllable against a tidal wave of longing or regret. "What do you mean you heard?" I shot back, still struggling to comprehend how everything had converged in that moment. Laura's arrest, Ethan's return, the sirens wailing in the distance like mournful ghosts. What do you know? Would he reveal truths that might shatter us further? Or was there still glimmers of hope buried deep in our tangled past? Before he could answer, the officer's voice broke through the tension, firm yet uneasy. "We can't have a crowd forming like this. Everyone needs to disperse. You're endangering yourselves." Ethan's gaze flickered to Laura, a silent conversation swirling between the man, electric undercurrent that told me there were secrets yet to be revealed, knots of unspoken alliances binding them together. "Laura, we have to go. Now," he implored, eyes darting between the officer's mounting frustration and my own petrified expression. "No," Laura shouted, her voice almost frantic. "You don't understand. I can't just leave." The crowd shrank back, their curious whispers now hushed with fear. But I felt the weight of their stares like stones on my chest. I couldn't bear the thought of being dragged into a darker narrative, one that would expose every fracture in our family. "Laura, please. They'll understand if we just talk. We'll get to the bottom of this together." But even as I spoke those words, I saw her resolution flicker, and a new edge of desperation crept into her demeanor. "Mom, don't you see? It's not just me. If we stay, whoever is involved will come after us." Ethan stepped forward, urgency replacing his earlier hesitation. "She's right. I know what's at stake. We can't trust anyone, not now." Silence hovered over us for a moment, thick and suffocating, as I wrestled with disbelief and a semblance of understanding. Trust? What did we know of trust anymore? How many times had we shared dinners, laughter, moments that now felt like stolen fragments of a happiness we'd never dared to question? In that fragile pause, my instinct to protect Laura clashed with the inescapable weight of my unresolved emotions toward Ethan. You left us." I spat, the hurt rushing out in waves. "You turned your back when we needed you, and now you just show up." "Mom, I had my reasons," he said, his voice strained. "Things I have tried to fix from afar. I didn't want to drag you into my own mistakes." My heart thudded painfully. Wasn't my life already littered with hidden secrets, slivers of betrayal and hurt that threatened to drown us all? Is that why you're really here? To cover your own tracks? I fought to keep the venom from my tone, torn between the instinct to defend Laura and the instinctive need to protect myself from further heartache. "How do you know about this?" Laura challenged Ethan, her anxiety morphing into defensive fervor. "What do you really know?" Suddenly, the thrumming tension was pierced by the staccato sound of footsteps, growing progressively louder as law enforcement units arrived in full force. The air crackled with electricity, the approaching officers like shadows heralding inevitable consequences. "Mom, we can't stay." Ethan's voice rose above the chaos, drowning out my swirling thoughts. In that instant, a flicker of understanding ignited. I had spent years hoping for his return, longing to piece together the remnants of our fractured family. Yet here I stood, the very core of my existence upended by truths and choices I wasn't certain I was ready to face. I shifted my gaze between my son and daughter, both standing at the precipice of desperation, two very different struggles colliding into one. How could I choose? And then, amid the turmoil, a single thought coalesced in my mind. We go together," I whispered, feeling the weight of fear begin to ebb ever so slightly. Maybe in allowing the pain to show, a sliver of hope could emerge. Just as I extended my hand to both of them, a sudden shout echoed from the back of the crowd, a voice laced with panic. "There he is! Stop him!" My stomach dropped as a figure emerged from the throng, wild-eyed and disheveled, pointing directly at us. "He's the one! He knows everything!" Panic gripped me as my thoughts raced. I turned toward Ethan and Laura, bracing for the fallout that would inevitably come, my heart pounding against its cage, desperate for answers that might save us all or bind us to an ever-deepening unraveling. Everything was spiraling, and in an incomprehensible flash, I sensed the horizon of our future darkening as we stood on the brink of realization together, but so precariously unstable. The sirens pierced through the air, a thunderous urgency that drowned out the heartbeats of everyone present. I recoiled at the sight of that wild-eyed figure, a stranger consumed by something I could only describe as desperation, a type of madness that could seek to unravel lives further. My eyes darted between Ethan and Laura as the crowd parted, energy shifting like quicksand beneath our feet. "Who is he?" I demanded, my voice barely managing to pierce the chaos. There was no time to ponder trust, no moment to dissect motives as the world around us jolted into a frenzy. "I don't know," Ethan shouted, his eyes flaring with anxiety. "Mom, we have to move. There's no time." "Stop him," the man shouted again, flailing a hand as though trying to physically grasp the weight of his accusation. "He knows about the money. He has to pay." Laura's face paled, a candle extinguished in an unrelenting storm. "Ethan, what money?" she shrieked, grasping at his sleeve, her breath quickening. "What does he mean?" "Focus, Laura," Ethan replied sharply, a fire igniting behind his words. Yet I saw the flicker of fear behind his bravado, a crack in the armor he presented. "We can't get caught up in this, I'll explain later." "No, this is not happening." My words burst forth, fueled by the besieging reality that reality wasn't simply knocking at our door, it had barged in uninvited, unrelenting and ruthless. The disheveled man lurched closer, eyes darting like a frightened animal, and I felt the air thicken with uncertainty. Then everything shifted. The officers swarmed in, dark uniforms a stark contrast against the brightness of flashing lights. "Everyone stand back," one of them shouted, extending his arm toward our small group. "We need to process what's happening." I faltered in confusion, torn between the impulse to protect my children and the paralyzing fear that spiraled from the man's wild accusations. "Ethan," I called out, my voice breaking. "What do we do? I can't let them take you. We have to run." Laura yelled, a raw panic surging through her. "They're going to assume we're part of whatever this is." Ethan grabbed her hand with shaking fingers, and the resolve flickering in his eyes reflected my own turmoil. "We can't draw them here. It's now or never." A moment stretched unbearably thin between us, the looming chaos breathing down our necks. I felt the weight of the choices spiraling around us, heavier than any storm I had ever experienced, as I looked into Ethan's desperate gaze. Where was my son? Where was that little boy who once clung to my side, laughing, so unaware of the darkness the world could hold? "Trust me," he urged, those two words resonating against the trembling fabric of our family. I wanted to scream that I couldn't trust anyone anymore, that trust had been lost in all our shared regrets and shattered dreams. But as fear propelled us forward, the instinct of familial bond surged, the very essence that had led me to fight for Laura only days ago. These were my children, navigators in a tempest. I took a steadying breath, allowing hope to guide my heart. "Together," I echoed, squeezing their hands tightly, only to witness the crowd parting further, applying pressure as we stumbled backward. My heart raced as we turned, desperate feet pounding on cracked pavement toward the shadows of uncertainty. And while we moved, the man's voice echoed behind us, a haunting refrain, "He knows everything." Each footfall resonated with fear, but the pavement beneath my feet felt solid. The darkening sky above felt so imposing. Yet for a split second, I embraced the surge of instinct that compelled me to protect them no matter the cost. "Where do we even go?" Laura breathed, glancing back as the world rippled under the weight of sirens and chaos. "Anywhere but here," Ethan declared, pulling us around a corner, his earlier doubt oscillating between resolve. Just then my phone buzzed violently against my thigh as the sensation shot through me like ice water. I fumbled for it, my breath catching as I glimpsed the screen, a message from an unknown number. "Meet me at the old docks. I know everything. About the money in your family. You are in grave danger." "What is it?" Laura asked, eyes wide, fear trickling back into the fragile grasp of hope. This I uttered, hesitating as I felt the words slipping away. The weight of the decision loomed, opening a chasm deep inside. Should I reveal the message, unravel the tangled web even more? Or should I protect them and shield the truth for one more moment longer? There on the brink of revelation, my heart weighed heavy as a single question resonated louder than anything else. Was this a chance to reclaim our family, or a lure into even deeper darkness? As we hurried forward, uncertain but entwined, I couldn't shake the feeling that choices lingered on the horizon, waiting to reshape everything we thought we knew. What awaited us at the dock? And what or who awaited the truth beyond our fractured trust? The docks loomed ahead, a grim silhouette against the bruised sky. As we sprinted toward the murky waters, the air thickened with the salty scent of fear and uncertainty. Each labored breath pulled me deeper into the quagmire of my anxiety, clouds swirling above us, threatening to unleash a storm that mirrored the turmoil within. "Mom, are you sure about this?" Ethan's voice wavered, threaded tightly with palpable tension. "What if it's a trap?" I glanced down, his fingers intertwined with mine, a lifeline in a world that was rapidly spiraling out of control. "I don't know," I admitted, my throat dry and scratchy. "But we need answers. I can't keep running blind." "Answers?" Laura echoed, her voice quaking. What answers could possibly make any of this okay? A good question, one that pierced through the haze of my determination. I wanted to tell her that everything would be fine, that whatever we faced would somehow lead us back to safety. Yet, truthfully, the shadows of doubt encroached on hope, gnawing at the edges. The message on my phone, a beacon or a trap, flickered darkly in my mind. The weight of its implications sat heavy on my stomach, tethered by guilt, the kind that came from keeping secrets close and not letting the children in on the storm brewing just beneath our fragile surface. The old docks creaked and groaned, a forgotten monument to times long past, as we emerged into the open space, devoid of the chaos that had chased us. We were alone here, just the three of us, the air thick with the anxious promise of confrontation. "Mom, listen." Ethan turned to me, urgency cutting through the air like a knife. "If we're waiting for someone we don't know, we have to be careful. Who sent that message? What if his words slipped through my defenses, fanning out into a million anxious thoughts? We weren't just running from a wild accusation. The accusation had roots deep in our lives, entwining with decisions that loomed larger than us. As we walked further into the shadows of the docks, the wooden boards beneath our feet ached as if reflecting the heaviness wrapping around my heart. "I know," I whispered, trembling slightly. "But we can't turn back. We need to uncover the truth." A small sound came from further down the pier, a soft rustling amid the stacks of forgotten crates. "Is someone there?" Laura called out softly, her voice trembling but brave. A figure emerged, cloaked in the dim light. A man, shadowy and inscrutable, stepped forward. My heart began to pound harder in my chest as he lifted his hands in a gesture of peace. "I mean no harm." The familiarity in his eyes struck me first. An aging man, weathered by a lifetime of secrets. "You're Michael's brother, aren't you?" I breathed, recognition crashing over me like a wave. "Kate," he replied. A mixture of sorrow and relief painted across his features. "We need to talk. There's so much I need to explain." "Explain?" Ethan's voice was a taut bowstring ready to snap. "You're the last person we want to hear from. How do you know about the money?" I interrupted, my words sharp and edged in anxiety. Michael's brother hesitated, then replied, "It's all connected to your husband's past. You need to hear me out. Every piece of it is essential to understanding what's truly at stake." Laura shifted beside me, fear radiating off her in waves. "What do you mean we're in danger? Why are you here?" "Because someone is coming for you," he said, urgency crackling in his voice. "And if you don't understand the stakes, it could cost you everything. You think you've escaped, but the web has only tightened." My heart sank, cold tendrils of dread wrapping around my chest. I saw it then, the way the light shifted behind his eyes, the reflection of crushing despair and desperate hope blended therein. Something shifted in the atmosphere as I caught Ethan shoot a glance over his shoulder, the shadows behind him heavy with unspoken threats. "More than the money, they want the truth," Michael's brother continued, stepping closer, moving away from the harbor's edge. "And the truth holds a power you can't ignore. It binds you to a past you thought was dead and gone." Just then, out of the darkened corner of my vision, a glimmer of motion flared. I turned, the sight making my breath hitch, dark silhouettes slinking further along the docks. Danger creeping in on us like the horizon swallowing the sun. "This way!" I yelled, but my voice was lost against the toiling silence that enveloped us. Desperation gripped me. I turned, but my children were rooted in place, tethered by confusion and fear. "No, we need to go." But as I spun back to them, Realization slammed into me. Michael's brother was more than just a figure from the past. He held a key to unlock doors long bolted shut. The allure of answers battled with the urgency of escape. The docks felt alive now, and all at once, the decision loomed stark before me. Would I remain chained to the echoes of our past or unlock the door to untold peril? As the figures in the shadows morphed, a fleeting glimpse of the familiar caught my attention. A woman, clad in darkness, her features obscured yet achingly recognizable. A gasp escaped my lips as the realization struck like lightning. It was someone I never believed I would see again. Mom? Laura's voice was strained, laced with the creeping dread that clung to the air. And as I staggered back, the world blurred around me, closing in. The question echoing louder than ever: what did I truly know of the bonds that tied us together? The air hung heavy with uncertainty, thickening as the shadows drew closer, pulsating with an energy that overflowed with unvoiced accusations and misunderstandings. The woman at the edge of the pier flickered at the forefront of my thoughts, her familiar silhouette like an ember meant to ignite the darkness. My heart raced, pounding against the bars of an emotional prison I never knew I was building. Elena. The name slipped from my lips before I could restrain it. I remember the way she used to laugh, a sound of pure sunlight that cut through the harsh wind of our realities. But as much joy as her presence once brought, it now felt laced with something more complicated: anger, betrayal, unresolved threads. She motioned closer, but I recoiled instinctively, every muscle in my body tightening. You shouldn't be here, I warned, though it sounded more like a plea than a reprimand. Not now. I had to come, she replied, a quiet desperation in her tone that spoke volumes beyond just her simple words. You're in danger and you don't understand just how deep it runs. I thought I could save you from this. Ethan's hand tightened around mine, his wide eyes darting between the strangers around us. He squeezed, grounding me for just a moment. But hope crumbled under the weight of my doubt. You've done enough damage, Elena. We don't need you in the middle of this. Tension crackled like static in the air, threatening to explode. Behind me, Michael's brother looked at the two women with a mixture of fear and deep regret. You need to listen to her, Kate. This isn't just about Michael's past. It's about the entire conspiracy that surrounds it. Conspiracy? Laura echoed, confusion causing her to shake visibly. What are you all talking about? The money and what it represents, Elena replied, her voice a blend of urgency and anguish. It's only a fragment of a larger game. The truth, Kate, it's larger than just the financial ties. Our lives are entwined in something that could change everything. Change everything? Ethan exclaimed, disbelief marking his brows as he glanced at me. A plea for reassurance hidden beneath the surface. How could it possibly get worse than this? But shadows were closing in, figures that blended seamlessly with the deepening gloom. I could sense them rummaging through the air with intent, each flicker of movement, a cruel reminder that our peaceful facade had shattered beyond repair. Mom! Laura's voice sliced through my spinning thoughts. We can't stay here. We have Toyno. I bit off sharply, fear wrapping around my voice like a shroud. I felt it tightening in my throat, choking back the truth yet again. But I need to understand what this all means first. The desperation and conflicting emotions battled for dominance within me, clashing like the turbulent waves beneath the dock. I had to choose. Uncover the layers of secrets or flee into the uncertainty that awaited beyond. Kate, Michael's brother, stepped forward, and seeing the haunted look in his eyes disarmed my resolve. You need to decide, and you don't have time to waste. Choose truth or the escape you may never find. Just as I began to weigh my options, a shrill shout rang out from one of the approaching shadows. There they are. Panic echoed in the voice, a plea for intervention that pulled my attention. A surge of adrenaline flooded my veins as I snapped my head toward the darkness. The silhouettes were not merely figments of my imagination. They were real, and they were closing in. Run! I shouted, adrenaline spiking, heart racing. The children didn't hesitate, propelled by instinct as I yanked on their hands, trying to drag them away from danger. But my gaze was locked on Elena, who stood rooted in place, fear etched across her features. Kate, wait! She called, desperation pooling in her eyes. If you leave now, you may never know the truth. It's bigger than you think. Her words screamed at me through the chaos. My heart was a battleground of indecision, hope and fear. The truth could very well lead to my downfall instead of salvation. Elena! "We have to go," I yelled, but time was fading quickly, the dark figures drawing every moment closer. Before I could make another attempt to rouse her, a shot of light burst from one of the shadows. A flash of steel glimmered threateningly. The crack of a gunshot rang out, slicing through the air like a jagged blade. "No!" I screamed, the sound echoing back at me, hollow and warped as Elena darted towards me, her movements betraying a sense of purpose that belied the chaos. And for the first time, I truly grasped the gravity of our entanglements, the lives that intertwined beyond our ability to navigate. With blinding clarity, I realized that the truth we sought might reveal not just answers, but the very essence of our existence, threatening to unravel everything. As we turned to flee, I cast one last glance over my shoulder at Elena. The shadows swallowed her whole, but the flicker of recognition in her eyes lingered. I could not escape the echoes of our fragmented past. In an instant, a pulse of betrayal flickered beneath the surface like a dark tide. And then I ran. But deep in my heart, an unsettling question gnawed at me with metallic weight. Would I ever fully escape the ghosts of our past? Or would the truth claw its way back to us, demanding its reckoning? The adrenaline surged through my veins as we darted away from the pier, the echoes of chaos swallowed by the night's oppressive grasp. Each step felt heavy, as if the shadows clung to the soles of my shoes, stubbornly refusing to let go. Fear snaked around my heart, binding it tightly as I concentrated on the road ahead, leaving the uncertain past and Elena behind for the moment. Ethan clutched my hand, his small fingers dwarfed by my own, yet he stood as my anchor amidst the storm. I stole glances at him as we ran. His youthful face was lined with confusion that mirrored my own turbulent thoughts. We reached the car, and my pulse quickened as I fumbled with the keys, the metal cold and unyielding in my trembling hand. "Mom, are we gonna be okay?" Laura's voice broke through the haze, raw and full of fear. I nodded, though my heart felt heavy with the weight of unspoken truths. "We'll be fine, sweetheart. Just stay close." Each word came from a place of instinct rather than certainty, but in that moment, I clung to the illusion of reassurance that I turned the engine over with a low roar, the sound mingling with the echoes of the past still echoing in my mind. My brain replayed the scene at the pier, the rage in Elena's eyes, the desperation in her voice, the gunshot that shattered the thin veil of safety we had so precariously held. I had left her behind, and the guilt threatened to drown me amid the noise of the world rushing back. And as we sped away, the rising sun began to paint the sky in shades of crimson and gold, hinting at a new day that felt painfully deceptive. The familiar streets blurred by in a whirl of shadows and light, but just outside my peripheral vision, I imagined the ghostly figures pursuing us, relentless in their quest for answers or revenge, or perhaps both. "Mom," Laura whispered again, her voice trembling. What did Elena mean? About the truth? I inhaled sharply, fighting the surge of panic. The truth could be a double-edged sword, one that could sever connections or bind them eternally. I gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white with the pressure of my thoughts. "I don't know, Laura. All I know is that we have to keep moving." And as the words left my lips, another realization crashed over me like a wave. I hadn't just left behind a person. I had abandoned the very answers that could save us. My determination faltered. What if uncovering the truth redefined everything we thought we knew? What if it destroyed us in ways I couldn't anticipate? We emerged from the city, the landscape morphing into ribbons of green and open sky. It felt like a temporary escape, yet the fear still wrapped around us, tightening with every mile. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched, pursued by unseen eyes that could slip through the cracks of our fragile sanctuary at any moment. What if they find us? Ethan's voice trembled, and I turned in my seat to look at him, instinctively searching for the right words to calm the storm in his eyes. "They want Buddy," I lied, forcing a smile that felt foreign on my lips. Deep down, a visceral dread tugged at my gut, whispering of dangers too profound to articulate. Just as I resolved to keep pressing on, a loud thud reverberated through the car, shaking me out of my thoughts. I glanced in the rearview mirror, and my heart dropped. 2 cars were tailing us, their headlights slicing through the morning mist like knives. Panic lanced through my veins. "Hold on," I shouted, pressing the gas pedal down, urgency turning the highway into a blur. The sounds of tires screeching against the pavement were drowned out by the roar of my heartbeat as I drove farther into the unknown, the horizon gilded in vibrant hues of dawn. With every turn and twist in the road, I felt a growing resolve, a desire not just to flee but to reclaim the stolen pieces of my life, my family. I glanced sideways at Laura, her eyes wide and searching, then at Ethan clutching his teddy bear, the comfort of childhood woven within its fur. "Mom, where are we going?" Laura asked, and for the first time, I felt an ember of hope spark amidst the suffocating uncertainty. "Anywhere but here," I replied, despite the ugly truth that loomed on the horizon like a storm cloud. But then my phone vibrated in my pocket, violently dragging me back into reality. I reached for it, the screen illuminating in stark contrast to the dawn outside. The message was from an unknown number. "If you want the truth, meet me where it all began." My heart stalled, pulse racing in rhythm with the burgeoning dread in my gut. The last place I wanted to return to was the pier, the area now haunted by the ghosts of our fractured past. "Mom?" Laura's voice trembled again, pulling my attention back to the urgency of the moment. "What does it say?" As I looked between the screen and the rearview mirror, the pursuing cars drew closer, swerving like predatory animals sensing weakness. I was faced with two agonizing choices: push forward into the unknown, risking the safety of my children, or turn back to the pier and confront the secrets that gnawed at my soul. The threat was now tangible, and each moment felt like a contest against time. I couldn't shake the simmering realization that both roads held their own dangers, and whichever I chose could irrevocably bond or shatter us. "On three, we decide," I whispered, stretching my resolve through a tide of fear. We needed to be united, but unity was a fragile thing when faced with unspeakable secrets. "Mom, I don't want to go back there." Laura's voice wavered, her fear palpable in the confined space. "I know, honey," I murmured, fighting to maintain composure. And then, as the tension mounted, the horns of the cars behind us blared like a siren drawn to a tragedy. The decision loomed like a blade, sharp and threatening. 1-2, my heart raced, adrenaline coursing through me. But before I could utter the final word, a shattering crash echoed from behind, and the world spun out of control as my heart dropped into the depths of despair. The sound of metal crumpling against metal consumed us, drowning out all sense of hope, and in that moment, I understood the truth would find us, whether we sought it or not. The car was suddenly pushed forward, a jolt that sent Ethan's teddy bear flying toward the dashboard. I gripped the steering wheel like it was the only thread tying me to sanity. Glancing into the rearview mirror, my stomach twisted into knots as I saw the front car that had crashed into us, its hood crumpled, smoke rising like a black flag of surrender. "Mom!" Laura's voice pierced through the chaos, and I could feel the tension stretching like a rubber band ready to snap. The car behind us had not only caught up, but it was also very much intent on destroying our escape. I fought against the panic clawing at my throat, forcing myself to stay calm. "We need to get out of here," I said, my voice barely rising above the cacophony. I slammed the gas pedal to the floor, praying the engine would respond as adrenaline surged through my system. We swerved onto an unmarked road, the terrain uneven and wild. The familiar feeling of being lost in some chaotic bend of fate crept back in the time I had lost myself while searching for Elena years ago. I could still feel the ghosts of our connection tinged with hostility, and now with every wild turn, they felt more present than ever. "Are we gonna be okay?" Ethan whimpered from the back seat, still clutching his bear like a lifeline. Each word from his innocent mouth felt like another crack in my heart, echoing the truth I dared not acknowledge. "Of course we'll handle this. We always do," I said, though it tasted bitter on my tongue. I stole a glance at Ethan, whose trusting eyes held the weight of my untruths. The truth was I was scared out of my mind, and I had no assurances left to offer. Suddenly my phone vibrated again, this time more insistently. The screen lit up with another ominous message that twisted my insides. "They're coming for what you took." The pier now. Panic surged, colliding with the weight of uncertainty and dread. Gathering all my courage, I made a decision we desperately needed. "We have to go to the pier." "Back there." "No," Laura protested, her voice escalating with desperation. "We can't. Please, Mom." I could see the fear in her eyes morphing into defiance, but I ignited the embers of determination within myself, knowing that confronting the shadows was our only chance. "Laura, we have no choice. We cannot outrun the truth forever." As the car barreled down the unfamiliar road, the horizon dipped into a brooding overcast. I couldn't shake the feeling that the universe was colluding against us. Just then, I caught sight of lights flashing behind us, sirens wailing a chase that now combined the police and our pursuers had merged into one chaotic braid. "Mom, they're right behind us," Ethan cried, his voice cracking in distress. "I know. Hold on." My heart raced as I took a sharp turn, expecting the cops to be on our tail. Every nerve trembled in me. Here I was on the brink of everything I had fled from, the chaos of it all intertwining with the innocent lives I vowed to protect. But as the car skidded across the unpaved road, I prayed for only one thing, that this was more than a reckless game of cat and mouse. I fought against a tide of despair that threatened to drown me as I focused on the road. Each choice I had made led this very moment, every pang of motherhood colliding with the ghosts of secrets too heavy to bear. Suddenly, just ahead, I spotted the outline of the pier, a silhouette etched against a darkening sky. My heart sank, a mixture of fear and resolve coursing through me. This place harbored the truth, buried beneath layers of deception and years racing ahead like vultures. As we reached the entrance of the pier, everything around us felt surreal, like a dream and a nightmare simultaneously. I could sense the encroaching danger, the weight of every concealed truth pressing against my chest. It was as if the pier had become a battlefield, a requiem that would determine our fate. I skidded to a halt, my breath coming out in ragged gasps. "Get out," I instructed the children as I scanned the eerie surroundings, every nerve ending tingling. "Are we supposed to meet someone?" Laura murmured, fear tainting her voice. "There's someone I need to talk to," I said, my resolve hardening. My eyes flickered toward the distant shadows, half expecting them to materialize at any moment, but it was the sudden sound of tires screeching against the gravel that tossed me into a reality much darker than I had anticipated. As the first figure emerged, memories flooded back, like a tidal wave crashing against the fragile walls around my heart. "There waiting for us," stood Elena. I staggered back, both relief and fury mixing painfully. "You came," she said, but there was an edge to her voice that sent shivers down my spine. "What do you want?" My voice trembled, every instinct screaming at me to protect something far deeper than just my children. "The truth," she replied, her eyes narrowing. "But I think you already know that." But before I could retort, the world around us darkened as headlights sliced through the gloom, illuminating the figures standing defiantly behind Elena. All of them armed, waiting for the secrets of our past to spill forth. In that moment, with more shadows looming than I could count, I understood no one could escape the truth forever. Not now, not here. Not while everything I had fought for balanced precariously on the edge of a revelation that could splinter our lives into shards sharper than pain itself. The air shimmered with tension as the headlights revealed more than just a threat. They illuminated the memories I had spent years burying. The figures standing behind Elena were hauntingly familiar, their features recognizable in the swirl of desperation and urgency. I felt my heart clench, visions of laughter and warmth transforming into dread and despair. Ethan's small hand gripped my arm, his little frame trembling against my side. "Mom, what's happening?" His innocent question cut through the suffocating atmosphere like a knife. I turned to him, forcing a smile that felt like crumbling porcelain. "It's okay, bud. Just stay close to me." But even I could hear the uncertainty laced in my voice. "Why did you come, Elena?" I breathed, my heart unmistakably entwined in fear and unresolved anger. Each word was a thread unraveling the tightly woven fabric of my resolve. "What more do you want from me after everything that happened?" She stepped forward, her silhouette casting a long shadow that seemed to meld with the night itself. "You've taken so much from us. It's time for the truth to emerge. Not just for you but for all of us." A lump tightened in my throat, a sickening churn of emotions that pulsated with every breath. The sharp edges of guilt and old wounds tore at me anew. I couldn't breathe. My past was clamoring to reclaim its place in my present. Memories of shared moments with Elena flashed through my mind, intermingled with the unbroken trust one had instilled in my children, now threatened by these unveiled fractures. As I stood paralyzed by the confrontation, a flicker of movement caught my attention. In the distance, more headlights pierced the black veil, racing towards the pier. The sirens wailed like banshees drowning in their own discord. My chest tightened with panic. I had brought my children into this chaos, and I had relied on a threadbare hope that somehow we would navigate through it unscathed. "Mimi," Ethan whimpered, sensing the shift in the atmosphere. "I don't like this place. Can we go home?" "Home." The word echoed in my mind like a prayer gone unanswered. I realized that this wasn't just about unearthing buried secrets anymore. It was about crafting a sanctuary for my children amidst the storm, one they could safely return to. My protective instincts roared to life, against the demons of my past and the dark intentions that seemed to congeal in the shadows. Stay close, both of you, I instructed as I redirected my gaze to Elena, feeling the need for control clawing at my insides. We can talk, but it will be on our terms. At that moment, I saw the glimmer of compassion flicker faintly in her eyes. I'm not your enemy. We need to figure this out. Together. You took my trust, I spat, anger bubbling irrepressibly. But in the crest of my volcanic emotions, I noticed something. Her stance grew softer as she glanced back, almost nervously, at the armed figures behind her. Unease rippled through me. What did she fear? The headlights drew closer, illuminating each stone and crevice of the dock, revealing the tension brewing like an unexpected storm on a clear day. Elena, we need to. Her voice dropped to a whisper, laced with urgency. We don't have much time. They're coming for you for the truth. You think what you took was just objects? They want you. A chill crawled down my spine as another realization crashed over me like a rogue wave. It was not just the past at stake, Anna Marie. It was a secret that could shatter the fragile fabric of our lives. One that could link us not just to pain but to profound consequences. Before I could respond, another voice erupted through the darkness. Elena! Get away from her! A figure emerged from the shadows, one that had been lost in my memories. Marcus. The sight of him hitched my breath. Anger collided with disbelief. Marcus! What are you doing here? He stepped forward, his eyes sharp, scanning the surroundings. This isn't where you want to be. Trust me. Confusion knit itself into the fabric of my resolve. Was he here as an ally or a threat? I had once trusted him with my heart. Now could I trust him with my children? Move, Elena, he barked, emphasizing every word with an intensity that felt as if he held the very reins of fate. You don't know what you're invoking. Invoking? I echoed, the ground beneath my feet shifting. What does that even mean? Elena shot Marcus a venomous look. You're afraid of the truth, Marcus. You should be. This isn't just about us anymore. We might all be in danger. Danger from what? Laura stepped forward, a flicker of bravery igniting in her darkened eyes. You're scaring Ethan. As if in response, a loud crash erupted from the direction of the oncoming vehicles, forcing our eyes and hearts toward the chaotic scene spiraling out of control. The air thickened, anticipation curling itself tightly around my chest. I was being thrust into a predestined fate, where everything I had kept hidden was about to collide with the present in a kaleidoscope of revelations. I intended to shield my children at any cost, but now secrets whispered in shadows threatened to uproot what little safety we had left, gripping us in a vice-like hold. Mom, Ethan's voice trembled as he clutched my waist tighter, innocence crumbling crystal clear against the weight of uncertainty. We can't go back. We have to stay strong, I said, the words barely even reassuring myself. Please, everyone, just hold on to each other. The figurehead of danger took a step toward us. I stood resolute, my children flanking me, but in that moment as the past loomed, I understood one terrifying truth. There was no escaping the coming storm, and the waves of destiny would soon crash down with overwhelming fury. As the tension thickened like fog around us, I finally felt the grip of fear loosening its hold, though the remnants still whispered doubts in the back of my mind. I glanced around, the strands of urgency and abandonment tightly woven together, echoing the fear in my children's eyes. Suddenly, the looming silhouettes of approaching vehicles became clearer, an ominous heaviness pressing down on us like the weight of our past mistakes. Mom. Ethan's voice was a plea laced with undeniable terror, so raw it tore into the confines of my heart. What do we do? Are we safe? It was a question that resonated not just in the air but deep within my soul, a question I had no answer for. We fight for each other, I managed to respond, gritting my teeth against the uncertainty that gnawed at the edges of my resolve. But even as the words left my lips, doubt snaked through. Could we even define what fighting meant in a world soaked in betrayal? Elena stepped back, eyes darting between Marcus and me, her stance wavering as the encroaching threat drew closer. You can't protect them, she breathed, her voice almost a shudder. You don't know what they want, but I know what I want, I fired back, each word like a declaration that pushed against the tide of fear. I want my family safe. There are bigger forces at play here, Marcus interjected sharply, stepping forward with the confidence of someone harboring the answers. The truth means everything, Kate. You can't just sweep this under the rug. It will come for you anyway. But before I could respond, the first of the figures from the vehicles emerged, the spotlight shining down, illuminating faces cloaked in determination, eyes hungry for answers. The sudden bump in my adrenaline brought clarity. I turned to my children, pulling them closer, their tiny bodies somehow grounding my swirling thoughts. Stay behind me, I whispered fiercely, a protective instinct rising with every breath. Ethan's small hand tightened around mine, as if sensing the peril washing over us. What's happening, Mommy? He asked, his courage faltering. Nothing we can't handle, I replied with certainty I didn't entirely feel, also to assure myself that we were facing this together as a family. Then, like shadows grasping for light, the armed figures advanced, anger radiating from them, fiercely illuminating the darkness surrounding us. Step away from her. One barked, pointing insistently at Elena. She's hiding too many secrets. Elena? I echoed, confusion colliding with the urgency of the moment. What do you know? I wish I could explain, Kate, but we don't have that kind of time, she urged, desperation coloring her words. If you want to keep your kids safe, pure honesty is our only way out of this. I contemplated her words, a tension folding around us, thick and suffocating. Would revealing the truth of our tangled lives alter the course of everything we had known? Then tell me. I shouted, frustration cutting through the noise. If you know there's danger, then we need to hear it now. No more secrets. The space erupted in primordial chaos as more figures emerged from the vehicles, their silhouettes casting long shadows that crept closer like wolves encircling their prey. What did your husband do, Kate? Marcus asked sharply, as if he had finally found the key to unlocking a hidden door between us. What was the truth you buried? And in that moment, the threads of betrayal unraveled in my heart like a curse, unraveling a whole tapestry of our lives, laying bare a network of heartache that had quietly dictated our existence. But I felt a strange weightlessness surging through me, an urge to simply speak it into existence, the truth in all its jagged, beautiful fragility. But the words lodged themselves in my throat, barricaded by the fear of what more was to come, the repercussions of a truth long buried just waiting to emerge. Before I could gather my thoughts, gunshots rang out, startling me backward as chaos unfurled. My instinct kicked in, lurching me into action. I pulled my children closer to me, desperately searching for a way out as chaos erupted around us. Get down! I yelled, diving instinctively to the ground, Ethan and Laura tucked against me as the world erupted in panic. Adrenaline coursed through my veins, fueled by the primal need to protect. I felt my heart race, thrashing against the backdrop of the chaos engulfing user future hanging by a thread. We need to run. I screamed, my instincts screaming in unison with my heart. Where? Laura's voice trembled, full of fright. Anywhere. We just can't stay here. I shouted, adrenaline spiking and pulling my children along, using the chaos of the moment to our advantage. We broke free from the immediate danger. As we scurried through the shadows, I fumbled for direction, the weight of desperation tugging at my heart, and then we heard the unmistakable sound of furious wheeling tires breaking the night, and suddenly the remote pier filled with sirens, lights, shouts, and chaos, forging the pathway to our reckoning. Why are they shooting? Ethan cried quietly, nestled against me like a bird, eyes wide and terrified. Because they want, I broke off, focusing on a destination. They want us, buddy. We have to go. I pushed forward, a blend of instinct and urgency propelling us closer toward the edge of the dock, desperation routing our desperate path. Laura tugged at my sleeve, her voice shaking. Mom, are you sure they won't get us? I don't want to lose you. With every ounce of resolve, I looked her dead in the eye, imprinting a promise in my heart. You won't lose me, I promise. We will get through this together. As we raced down the dock, I felt an urgency not just to escape but to reclaim who we were, who we could still be. With every hurried step, I felt the truths bubbling beneath the surface, screaming for a chance to spill forth. The pier stretched ahead before us, a chaotic maze of shadows, but I refused to falter. This was my moment for clarity, a moment where this fragmented family could either find the path to healing or merely become another casualty of a past riddled with lies. Just ahead stood an old weather-beaten boat, a remnant of a forgotten past that swayed with the tide, its hull slick from the night's ongoing storm. There. We can take it, I urged, pushing through the clouds of doubt clouding my heart. We can find safety. But as we raced for the vessel of hope, I heard the terrifying crack of gunfire behind us, unfolding chaos trailing with the dark figures emerging from the depths of the shadows. In that moment everything grew quiet, as if the world held its breath, waiting for the truth to release us from its suffocating grip. Mom! Let's go! Ethan shouted again, pulling me forward as the boat beckoned an escape that felt more than just evasion. It felt like a lifeline, and yet before we could reach the edge, an overwhelming sensation settled over me, a sickening realization that wrapped around my heart, forcing its way through hollowness. They wouldn't allow us to escape that easily. Light erupted as the piercing beams of searchlights swept across the dock, and I saw them again, figures moving through the shadows, eyes lit with an intensity that threatened to consume everything in their path. Panic washed over me. No, please. My thoughts raced. In a single electrifying motion, I turned around to face my children, fear flooding my veins. Get in! I yelled, urgency rising like a tight knot in my chest, pushing them toward the boat. Now! But something deep within me whispered to hold back, to face my past so my children could have a true chance at safety. And as I leaped aboard, I knew one thing: the truth we had long buried was creeping into the flesh of our existence, threatening to uproot our lives. And with every heartbeat, the vestiges of who we were stood on the precipice of who we could become. Just as I set the boat in motion, a figure emerged from the shadows, advancing toward us with a resolute confidence that signaled the end of our desperate chase. My heart dropped as recognition crossed my mind. This was someone who knew too much, someone who could fracture our lives forever. Kate! Alina's voice shouted, fear shadowing her eyes. You have to, but my heart was already racing, driven by the need to protect my children at all costs. We moved further away from the pier, fighting against the tide, the past merging with our present as everything came crashing down. Mom! Laura screamed as horror gripped her, gripping onto me tightly while the weight of inevitability bore down. We can't let them take us, I declared, serene determination settling in. But we also can't let the truth sink into oblivion. As we drifted further into the expanse of the water, my mind raced. The struggle wasn't just for physical safety, but for unshackling ourselves from the burdens that lodged deep and festered over time. Let's face it, together, I murmured to my children, feeling the rush of hope mingle with fear. This is where the story begins anew, and as the echoes of our past merged with dawning light, preparing us for what awaited beyond, I felt an unyielding sense of resolve pooling inside me, ignited by the bond of our love. For amidst the turmoil, perhaps the truth could kindle a path to healing rather than despair. And as we met the horizon, the universe in its infinite vastness spoke a promise that resonated through every pore of my being. In the end, love will always lead us home. And as we sailed into the unknown, I clutched my children to my heart, whispering a silent vow together: we would find our way through the storms brewing ahead, rebuilding not just our future, but ourselves in the process.